The box office top 10 consists of these films. At 10, Wedding Days with a Z.
Not as funny as it ought to be. It's about as funny as a film which uses a Z in the phrase Wedding Days. It's wacky and zany, but not that wacky and zany.
Number 9, Jum Barabar Jum.
Still waiting for audience reviews of that. Again, not press screened over here. So, you know, if you've seen it, send us an email, tell us what you think of it.
8 is Tell No One.
Which I really like, based on a best-selling... Which you've read, right? You've read the Harlan Coben novel, apparently. Didn't you say you had?
No, I didn't.
You just lied.
Excuse me, no, I just never said it.
No, you did say it. You said, oh yeah, based on a novel by Harlan Coben, like in a way to imply that you were literary and I wasn't. But it's a very good American thriller, French adaptation. It overly twists itself at the end, but the basic story is at the beginning of it, somebody loses their wife, he believes them to be dead, and 8 years later he gets emails from the grave. It's sort of like The Vanishing in reverse, but I liked it very much.
Are we done yet at 7?
And we really, really ought to be, but there will probably be another one, which is a real shame. This already is a sequel. Why it is that these kind of films have sequels, I just don't understand. Presumably the numbers stack up, but nothing else does. It's really terrible. It's meant to be a family comedy, and it says something about the way that family movies have gone, that is now what passes for a family comedy.
Ma Vie en Rose at 6.
You see, now I'm not going to do my Edith Piaf impression again, because I got such a bad response last week.
The reviews were poor.
What, of the film or of my Edith Piaf?
Of your
Would you like
impression?
to have a go and see whether you can do it any better?
No.
My problem with La Vie en Rose is, I think Marianne Cotillard is doing a very, very good impersonation of Piaf, although obviously she's not doing the singing herself because she can't sing as well as I can. The problem is that there's a big hole in the centre of the film, which is that the director doesn't really know how to make the narrative work. So you get all these different bits of her life in all the wrong order, and you end up looking at the changing hair, wigs and teeth, and just being, baffled by the makeup. And only a French movie could miss out the whole of World War II. And there's a very interesting chapter in Piaf's life, because actually, she sang for the high-ranking Germans, but she also did her bit for the resistance. This is very, very well known nowadays. How you can leave that out of such a short life, oops, it didn't happen, is beyond me.
Number 5 is Vacancy.
The thing with the torture porn articles, okay, torture porn is something which has been invented by the media, and it doesn't really, it doesn't really exist. Vacancy is the kind of the high end, the sort of the mainstream.
Do you want to tie in Vacancy at 5 and Captivity at 4 as their next?
So I do them together.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Captivity,
in brief,
Captivity is a really, really stupid, heartless, soulless movie that has been completely recut. They reshot a third of it in order to cash in on the alleged torture porn craze. Vacancy is at least a good, honest, no messing, nuts and bolts slasher movie in which two people check into a hotel that's clearly the Bates Motel. The guy behind the counter is twitchy and itchy and all the rest of it, and they get into the hotel and then surprised to discover that it's a set of a snuff movie. They're the only people who are surprised. But of the two of them, Vacancy, fairly well handled, falls apart at the end, but it's good, empty tosh. Captivity, really sleazy, nasty, rancid rubbish, and what a shame that Roland Joffe still has his name on it, and indeed that Larry Cohen does. I mean, Larry Cohen made Q the Winged Serpent, and that's a great film.
Pirates is at 3, I think,
covered in full detail. Can you still download the Pirates?
No, you can't. No, we do refer listeners to the previous broadcast. Ocean's 13 is at number 2.
I mean, it's not as bad as Ocean's 12. It's not as good as Ocean's 11. It does have the charismatic black hole that is Julian Sands. And it is, in the end, all those people enjoying themselves much too much and enjoying the check and enjoying the company and having a good time in Las Vegas. And I think, as we said in some detail before, Las Vegas, there's not a place to go and have a good time. Las Vegas is a cesspit on the face of the earth, and it shouldn't be there. You should just be able to go straight the way through Death Valley and not have to deal with Las Vegas at all. And any film that says, hey, Las Vegas, it ain't like what it used to be. No, the only time Las Vegas was good was when it was a desert.
At the box office, number 1 this week, Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, or as you're about to say, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
So much correspondence on whether or not that film actually conforms to the structure of the comic book, and yes, it does. That doesn't make it any good. I mean, as I said before, and I'll say it again, there is more about the mythology of Silver Surfer in the Richard Gere remake of Abu Dusuf than there is in 4, Rise of the Silver Surfer. It's shiny and brittle, and it's not going to offend anybody, although I really could live without the Jessica Alba role, because it seems to me strange that in these superhero movies like that's fine. You can say to men, well, it's okay, you can look like a rock face, and that's fine, but the women have to look like Jessica Alba and have to lose all their clothes at some point. And if you're going to aim it at a young audience, I'd rather you said, actually, that's not really very good. There's more to being a female superhero than, losing your clothes.
It's bright and sunny at the moment, so play will resume. Let's do some movies while we're here. Mark Kermode with some reviews. The big poster movie, the one most people will be looking forward to, is Shrek the Third.
Shrek the Third. The third, it's the summer of threequels, as we've already established. So we're being attacked by a wasp. You know, we've had Spider-Man 3, which was way too long. We've had Pirates of the Caribbean 3, which was way too long, although that was already way too long in parts 1 and 2. Now, Shrek the Third. Story is that Shrek and Fiona are standing in for the royalty in a brief hiatus, but it looks like Shrek is going to inherit the crown, which he doesn't want to do. The only way he can not inherit the crown is he has to go off and find Arthur, voiced by Justin Timberlake, who I hear is a modern popular singer who shall have, you know, will ring bells with the young audience. Isn't he the guy who wears the funny hat?
Those under 30.
Him. Meanwhile, however, the USP, the particular selling point this time round, is that Fiona is going to have babies. So Shrek has to come to terms with fatherhood. So all the plot stuff, which is all just waffle, it's just, you know, nonsense to get him out on a quest, because you have to. You can't have a Shrek movie unless he's on a quest. He's in Far, Far Away. He's arrived there. He's there. He's happy ever after. Actually, he's been happy ever after twice. So they've got to kick him out of the house, go find Artie while Fiona sits around and broods. Anyway, more of the same, or less of the same, actually. So a number of things to be said. First one is, and it is the most obvious one, Mike Myers' accent is slipping somewhat. The question about why Mike Myers does Shrek Scottish. You ever see that film, So I Married an Axe Murderer?
Do you know it slipped off my essential list?
It's actually very good. It's a very funny cult movie, and he started doing the Scottish accent in this. Of course, he has, you know, British connections, and then he kind of followed it through with, you know, with the Austin Powers movies, and then he ended up doing Shrek in a Scottish accent for no good reason. It does seem that by the third one, he's kind of forgotten why he thought doing a Scottish accent was funny in the first place. Second thing to be said is the main thing here is fatherhood, coming to terms with fatherhood, embracing the fact of fatherhood. Father's going to be a wonderful thing, and there are several times in which the donkey, voiced by Eddie Murphy, says, being a father is really great, which is particularly ironic considering that Eddie Murphy just come out of this great big public bun fight in which, you know, it's nothing to do with me, Mel B, nothing to do with the genetic test, all that sort of stuff. It's like, presumably that was all, you know, the film was recorded before all that stuff blew up. Thirdly,
you're well up with celebrity gossip.
Oh, it's impossible to avoid that. Even I know about that. I mean, I think it's been in the Barnet Times. Thirdly, you do get a sense that they're all sort of going, well, you know, we need to bring out another Shrek movie. We're going to have Shrek 4 is going to come out in 2010. We just need to do it. And it feels terribly perfunctory. And when Shrek started, it was kind of like DreamWorks taking a pop at Disney. It was like they were the anarchic voice. And now what they have on their hands is a franchise that has become so successful that, in fact, if anything deserves to be knocked, it is them. You get all the usual stuff. So for the kids, you get the, you know, the poo bum fart jokes, which is absolutely fine. You get the puns that are sort of almost towards rude words, but not quite. They try and say Worcestershire in a way which almost implies that Eddie Murphy uses a rude word, but he doesn't quite. And there are lots of movie jokes. And especially for me, there's a whole section in which, because Shrek has to come to terms with the idea of having a kid, he envisages a pram, which is the Rosemary's Baby pram, and he envisages a whole mountain of green spew coming out of it, which of course is The Exorcist. And then he gets set upon by crawling green gribblies, which of course is The Brood. So we managed to do, you know, 3 films that I really like in a brief. And about 2 years ago I would have said, oh, that in itself was funny and cute and lovely and charming, and now I kind of feel like it's not any of those things anymore. It just feels a little bit forced. On the good side, it isn't going to offend anybody. It is 93 minutes long, which is how long this kind of thing ought to be. I mean, actually, you know, 88 would have been probably better. And it's not without moments of charm. There's a very funny sort of dying frog sequence with you know, John Cleese as the you know, the Frog Prince, and he gets the most out of that. Eric Idle does one of the voices, and he gets the very least out of that. And you know, there are the usual sort of charming gags. Is that your phone?
Nope.
Well, okay, it's fine. It's not mine. My phone doesn't make that noise.
John Inverdale.
With John Inverdale, fine.
Curses.
And so, you know, there are moments in it that are charming and sweet and nice. And I have to confess, as I always do, that in the final moment when everything is resolved and we all realise that, hey, being a father is good, I cried. Because I do. Because I can't not. And I'm sure that if you take your young kids to see it, and I'm definitely going to take my young kids to see it, they'll enjoy it at the moment that it's there. But what they're not going to do is cherish it in the way that they would cherish something like the original Shrek, because it was so edgy and so spiky and so great that they could say they love it, and I could say yes, I love it too, and it's for different reasons, but we could somehow meet in the middle. It's not. I mean, funnily enough, an awful lot of Shrek seems to be aimed at parents who are having to take their kids to see Shrek. It's all about how your life completely changes once you've got kids.